are, and if you're the agent representing both sides, what your duties are. And your duties, basically, you have a fiduciary duty of utmost care, integrity, and honesty, and loyalty in dealings with the seller. This form has to accompany the purchase agreement, or if it doesn't, the purchase agreement is voidable. Also, when you go to take a listing, this is going to be the first form on top of the listing paperwork. It has to be signed with the listing. We had a situation, it's been probably about 2 years now. One of our top agents here, very seasoned agent, took a listing. It had been a couple months. He and the seller were butting heads. The seller wanted to cancel the listing, and he didn't want to. So when I reviewed the paperwork, because it takes both parties have to agree to cancel, right? When you have a contract, you can't, one person can't cancel a contract. You both have to agree to it. So when I reviewed the paperwork, the agency disclosure was signed a week after the listing agreement was signed. It was voidable. So I had to cancel that agreement. Very important to have, if you write 5 offers, you're going to do a disclosure with each offer, okay? Excuse me. So on this form, go ahead and scroll down, Whitney. On this form, she's my Vanna White today. On this form, just get familiar with what's where. At the bottom of it, you'll just need, oh, Peter and Deborah are the buyers, okay. You'll just need the buyers to sign. It's check buyer. They'll sign it and they date it when they sign it. You don't put the date in ahead of time. We want it dated when they sign it. And then where it says agent, and you're going to notice this a lot on the car forms, the agent right below that line, it says real estate broker firm. So it is Keller Williams Realty Encino Sherman Oaks. Not your name, but the company's name, okay? You can use, so we have 2 legal names. There's Keller Williams Realty Encino Sherman Oaks. It's kind of long, so if you want to shorten it up, you can use our other legal name, which is KW Encino Sherman Oaks. So either one of those is okay to use. And then our license number, the company's license number, is the DRE number is 0181181. Once you put it in your car forms once, it'll be on the drop down, so you'll be able to, if you won't have to memorize, it'll be there. And then the line below where it says buy, salesperson or broker associate, that's me and my license number. And that's where I will sign and date. If you look at the paragraph right above it in bold, there's a second page to this form, to this disclosure regarding real estate agency relationships. And all it is, don't do it yet, all it is civil codes. So by signing here, you're acknowledging that you received, that the buyer received a copy of page 2. Back in the day when it was paper forms, it was actually the back page of it. Now it's page 2. We used to have to initial that page that we received it, but now nobody was initialing it. We were always chasing people down to get their initials. So instead of doing that, they put on here that by signing this page, we're acknowledging we got page 2, okay? Let's see what page 2 looks like. They're talking about boring reading. It's the civil codes. So that is the agency relationship disclosure. Does anybody have any questions?
For the checked, for the top of it, where if check this form is being provided in connection with the transaction for a leasehold, is that just if you're doing a lease?
I've never seen that checked. We're going to ignore that checkbox, but it's a good question. So that would be a leasehold interest exceeding 1 year. So even with the lease, we're not going to check it.
So never check that box.
Never check that box.
There for fun.
It's there for something we don't use.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next form. Some of these I'm going to just go ahead and go through. Oh, which is the next one? See this? Okay. This is not the most recent, Whitney. We got to, let's stop right here for a minute. In the newest, if you're on car forms, there's a fair housing and discrimination advisory that was just included in October 2020. It's okay that it's not there. If you're in car forms, you're going to see it. It's 2 pages that needs their signature on page 2. Just read through it. It looks like this. Just read through it when you have a moment. Wait, we're going to have to change this out for the next class, okay, for tomorrow's class, okay? It's about fair housing and discrimination. This has been a key subject. I go into a lot of Zoom meetings with owners and attorneys and brokers of other offices. And it talks about that we're not allowed to discriminate based on sex, sexual orientation, gender, religion, origin, color, marital status, citizenship, language. There's a whole list of things that we're not supposed to discriminate. We're supposed to be good human beings that don't judge people for whatever their beliefs or are. So it's a 2-page thing. It's something I wasn't going to read to you. We all know how to read. So we're going to go ahead. It'll be included in tomorrow's package. I apologize for that, but we're going to revamp this when we're done with this class. So I'm not going to ask if there's any questions because most of you don't have this form. I'll briefly go over it tomorrow in tomorrow's class. The next one is the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller, disclosure and consent. This is
Demetra.
Yes?
Can you hear me? Hi, I'm sorry. It's Julie.
Hi.
Is it okay to ask a buyer if they're married? If you're not sure, is that bad? Is that
Well, usually if you're working with a buyer and they're married, usually the husband and wife are looking at houses together, right?
Actually, no. I have someone right now. It's kind of like blurry, and I'm not sure if I should ask her because she hasn't brought it up.
The only reason I'm leaning towards yes is because if she goes and writes it by herself and she is married and she doesn't want him on title, he's going to have to quit claim himself off, because in California the laws are that he owns the property with her. So
Got it.
Is there a way you can ask without just coming out and asking?
Yeah, I'm trying to get around to it. I talked to her twice, and I'm like, should I ask her? Because she hasn't mentioned. I know she has kids.
Are you buying this house alone, or will somebody else be on title with you?
Okay, I can do that. Just to be safe. Thank you.
That way, okay. Good question. Thank you. Possible representation for more than one buyer or seller. This form was brought on because of lawsuits. Most of these disclosures were. This goes over different situations that could happen. Nobody's ever pushed back on this. Actually, I had my first one on Monday. One of our agents, the seller didn't want her agent to represent a buyer, so she didn't want to sign this form. But it goes over more than just dual agency. So it goes over multiple buyers. A broker may be working with many prospective buyers at the same time. These prospective buyers may have an interest in or make offers on the same properties. This does happen. You might have 3 buyers that are looking for the same type of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Granada Hills for $800,000. You might have that. So it also goes over multiple sellers. You might have, we just had Christina and Megan, they just had about 4 listings in their farm on the same street, which was a beautiful sight to see their for sale sign, up the street. But so this would apply for their situation. If you have multiple sellers, broker may have listings on many properties at the same time. As a result, broker will attempt to find buyers for each of those listed properties. Some listed properties may appeal to the same prospective buyers. So this kind of covers your rear end if you have this situation. Also a dual agency. If you're the listing agent, it's kind of a beautiful thing if you represent both sides, I think. So if you represent, if a buyer comes in and wants to write an offer with you, the listing agent, this allows you to do that. And if Nancy, for example, writes an offer on my listing, it's considered a dual agency because we're with the same brokerage. So if anybody in our office or our in Sherman Oaks office, we have the same broker, it's the same brokerage. If it's Keller Williams Calabasas, it's a different broker. So it's not considered a dual agency. Make sense? Can we go down a little bit, please? You're really listening, Whitney. You're going to be a realtor by the time you're done with this class. And it goes into offers are not necessarily confidential. Buyers advise that seller or listing agent may disclose the existence, terms, or conditions of buyer's offer unless all parties and their agent have signed a written confidentiality agreement. So this is just a boilerplate form. Again, I've never had any resistance up until this week, but we talked her through it. So at this point, the buyer, the seller, the buyer's agent, and the seller's agent are all going to sign this form. But right now, we're writing the offer. We're with the buyer, so the buyer's going to sign. It already uploaded their information, auto-filled their information. So the buyer's going to sign and date, and then it already auto-filled our information. So the buyer's brokerage firm is Keller Williams Realty Encino Sherman Oaks, the license number, and then my name that I'm going to sign and date there. The seller's brokerage in this case, and I got this information from that MLS sheet, right? That we printed at the very beginning. It's Rodeo Realty, pardon me, Sheila Milano from Rodeo Realty. And it'll have their license numbers on the MLS sheet too. Do we have any questions regarding the PRBS, the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller, disclosure and consent?
No, but I have a question just in terms of the MLS sheet.
Okay.
When it says Keller Williams Realty or whatever, is the DRE, there's two DRE numbers, and is the Cal DRE number always the agent's number, or is that the brokerage's number?
Can we scroll up real quick, Whitney, to the MLS sheet? It would be page 2 of the MLS sheet. Here we go. Here we go. So are you looking at Sheila Milano's?
No, I'm just looking at the MLS sheets that, like, when I print them out or whatever, and I scroll down and it shows Keller, it shows basically two numbers on the MLS.
Okay.
The top one, and then
the
there's
one number is going to be the office number, and the other license number will be the agent's number. It'll say LA, listing agent, and their number, and LO, listing office, and their number.
Yeah, I see LA1, and it'll say Cal Dre, and then the other one just says
California DRE.
Yeah, and then the other one will just say DRE.
Either way, it's fine. It's however they put in. Cal DRE is California Department of Real Estate license number, and the other one is Department of Real Estate. It's the same. Are you a member of CLAW?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is like what I'm looking. Nah, dang. So how are you getting that MLS sheet? You're doing that through the APN number?
I did it. I got this MLS sheet through the address, but this is I'm on a different board, so they might look different.
Okay.
And then once you go on to pull the sheet, that gives you different options of which form you want. If you want a 3-liner, if you want a, if you want a full report, I get a full report because it's got everything on it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Whitney, you're welcome. Let's go back down. Does anybody have any questions regarding the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller? Pretty self-explanatory. Again, please read through it and get to know these forms. Next, we have wire fraud and electronic funds transfer advisory.
Demetria, can I ask a question?
Please.
It's more of a how do you handle a situation when, let's say, you're representing two buyers at the same property, and then both want to submit an offer. Do you involved in like advising them where the offer should be? What if they ask you, hey, I know you're representing this buyer as well. Where's his offer at? Like, how do you handle that situation?
Okay.
How do you get out of it?
Okay. Good question. If you have two buyers, Harry, and they want to both write an offer the same, you need to disclose to each buyer that you're representing another buyer. However, when you're representing buyer A, if buyer B asks you what buyer A wrote, you cannot tell them. Just like if buyer A says, okay, I'll write $1 million, I can go up to 1,000,001, but I want to start at 1 million. You can't go tell the listing agent, he wrote 1 million, but I can get him up to 1,000,001. You can't do that. Okay? So you can't discuss what you need to disclose to buyer A and buyer B that you're representing another buyer on this property, but you don't discuss the details of those offers with from each other. Does that make sense?
Understood. Yes.
If you're not comfortable with it, refer it to somebody else. Have somebody else represent the other buyer on this for this transaction only. You can have as the broker, I can write it for you.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. This next form is wire fraud and electronic funds transfer advisory. This is something that we've seen a lot of in the last couple of years. And we don't want to freak out our clients, but we need to make them aware that this is out there, wire fraud, especially when we get into escrow. And you can see in the middle of this form, well, let me read the beginning of it to you. The ability to communicate and conduct business electronically is a convenience and reality in nearly all parts of our lives. At the same time, it has provided hackers and scammers new opportunities for their criminal activity. Many businesses have been victimized, and the real estate business is no exception. So, when you write an offer, you have them electronically transfer the funds to escrow. If you can go down just a little bit, Whitney. So it says here in the middle of this form, you are advised to, that's good, obtain phone numbers and account numbers only from escrow officers, property managers, or landlords at the beginning of the transaction. Do not ever wire or electronically transfer funds prior to calling to confirm the transfer instructions. Only use the phone number you were previously given. Do not use any different phone number or account number included in any email transfer instructions. Orally confirm the transfer instruction is legitimate and confirm the bank routing number, account numbers, and other codes before taking the steps to transfer the funds. Avoid sending personal information in emails or texts. Provide such information in person or over the telephone directly to the escrow officer. Take steps to secure the system you are using with your email account. These steps include creating strong passwords, using secure Wi-Fi, and not using free services. So once you open escrow, escrow is going to send the information to your client, and they have a way of sending it that it's harder for these hackers to get in. It's encrypted. So this is just a disclosure to advise them that this is out there, that this is happening. We don't want it to happen to you, so you need to follow this procedure, okay? Whether you're the seller or the buyer. We've seen it happen where the buyer's proceeds, a hacker comes in and they disappeared. Now they're in China or Russia or somewhere. And there's no tracking it, there's no getting it back. So we need to make sure that they're aware, and then they go ahead and sign at the bottom so they can never come back and say, Demetra never told me that there was wire fraud. I'd never heard of such a thing. So Whitney, if you can scroll to the bottom and just have your clients sign. The buyers and sellers are both going to sign this because it can affect either or both. Anybody have any questions? All right. Next is the purchase agreement. Ta-da! Okay. This is our California Residential Purchase Agreement and Joint Escrow Instructions. Date prepared. So if I wrote the offer last night, I'd put yesterday, even though it's not getting signed till today, just to keep records straight. I put the date you prepared. So if it was yesterday, that was March 2nd, I would have put March 2nd. And then you just fill in the blanks. This is an offer from Peter Miller, Deborah Miller, which is the buyer. The real property to be acquired is, you put the property address, including the zip code. Another reason why I print that form, I have it all at my fingertips. Situated in Thousand Oaks, Ventura County, 91362. Assessor's parcel number. Somebody didn't put that in. So if you look at the MLS sheet, you'll find the assessor's parcel number and you type it in there. It'll either say APN, or it'll say assessor's parcel number, or it'll say parcel number. And it is a 10-digit number. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 10-digit number. The purchase price offered is $1,500,000. You type in the numerically, and it'll print out in writing how it has their 1,500,000. So that's the purchase. That's the price we're offering. Close. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to stop me. Okay. 1D is close of escrow. Close of escrow shall occur on, so you could put an actual date if your clients need it to close a certain date. I actually have an escrow right now where they need it to close on April 2nd because it's part of 1031 tax exchange, something they need it on that date. Or what we normally see is 30-day after acceptance. So you can either do an actual date, or you can check the box and put how many days of escrow you want. The only time you can close sooner than 30 days is if it's an all cash deal. Especially now with COVID, it's taking longer, especially now with low interest rates, and the loan brokers are busy doing refis and stuff, so they're taking longer. So 30-day escrow is really the shortest amount of time if we're getting a loan. If it's an all cash deal, you can close in 5 days because there's no loan to get. There's no, you can waive the appraisal. It's simply depositing money into escrow and getting a title search. So does anybody have any questions regarding part 1 of the RPA? Okay. Agency. Even though we filled out that agency disclosure, that first form that was, I stress is so important, on this purchase agreement, it needs to be confirmed. So, confirmation, the following agency relationships are confirmed for this transaction. Seller's brokerage firm is Rodeo Realty, Inc., and their license number. Is the broker up? Please, please, please check boxes. If they're not checked, I review every file. I'm going to kick it back to you. And if it's not filled out, there's a confirmation of agency form that I'm going to make you fill out and have your client sign. And you believe me, there's enough forms in escrow. You don't want another one. But it's that important that we have a confirmation of brokerage. Okay. So Rodeo Realty represents the seller. Sheila Milano is the agent with her license number. And then the buyer's brokerage firm is Keller Williams Realty Encino Sherman Oaks, our license number. And then the buyer's agent, me, and my license number. Now, if it happened to be both Keller Williams that represent the seller and the buyer, then the middle box would be checked that we represent both buyer and seller, dual agent. Okay, does that make sense? So that is our agency. Please, it needs to be complete and the boxes need to be checked. All right, wait, let's go down to finance terms. Oh, you went too far. One more. There we go, number 3. Okay, finance terms. Buyer represents that funds will be good when deposited into escrow. Initial deposit, the deposit shall be made in the amount of, we usually want, I keep looking over here, we usually want 3% of the purchase price, okay? That is, if there's any less, I'm gonna counter it out because I want the full 3%. If they're only putting $1,000, they're not putting any skin in the game. They're not, they're not serious buyers. Because that means if they default, if they decide to cancel, there's only $1,000 at risk. They're at risk of losing. So you want it to be the full 3%. So what's 3% of $1.5 million? I bet it's 45,000. Let me check. $1.5 million times 3%, 45,000. So that's what we want to collect. So this means that when we have an agreed upon contract, yay, they accepted our offer, we're going to open escrow. Once escrow is open, they have 3 days, 3 business days to deposit the funds. And I'm stressing business days because this is the only part in the contract that's business days. Everything else is calendar days. Okay, so if we had come to an agreement on a Friday, Saturday's the next day, that's not a business day. Sunday's not a business day. So they have they have till the end of business on Wednesday to deposit those funds into escrow. And how do we want them delivered? And you got to make sure you pay attention to this because escrow is not going to accept anything other than what's on this contract. So buyer direct deposit, that's what I leave it at. Buyer shall deliver deposit directly to escrow holder by electronic funds transfer. I leave it at that. I don't check any boxes here because if you don't check any boxes, that means once we open escrow, escrow's be in contact with your buyer and go over wiring instructions so they can wire the funds and they're automatically in. And then you don't have to worry about handling a check because once you touch their check, you have to enter it in the trust log, which is at the front desk at Whitney's desk. You don't have to worry if it's a personal check, you don't have to worry about it bouncing because that's happened. You hate getting that call from escrow that your buyer's deposit check bounced. I've also had agents lose their buyer's deposit check. I found many a deposit check in a copy machine back in the day when we used to write checks. So the best, cleanest way to do it is electronic funds. They just have to make sure that they're making sure they're wiring the funds to escrow and to not anybody that's trying to scam them. Okay. If the buyer insists on a cashier's check or personal check, if that's the case, that's fine. We can still do it that way, but they need to check the box. If they don't check the box and it's wired, electronic funds, and they want to bring in a check, escrow's not going to take a check because the contract says it's to be wired. Okay, so we want to make sure we discuss that with the buyer. How would they like to deposit their funds into escrow? We recommend electronic funds transfer, but if they push back, that's fine. The only thing we won't accept is cash. I've had people with a fistful of briefcase full of cash they wanted to deposit in escrow. I said, deposit that to your bank and then get a check. So we can't take cash. He was kind of a shady character. Then the next thing for there's 3A and then 3B. Can you unmute everybody unless there's background noises? I feel very lonely here. Or unmute yourselves if there's no background noise and if you have questions. Increased deposit. The only time we're going to do an increased deposit. So let's say the $45,000. The buyers have the money, but it might be tied up in a 401k, and it might take 4 or 5 days to get it. But they have $5,000 now, but they'll put in the $40,000 in a week. That's the only time we use the increased deposit. We kind of don't want to do that. In fact, when you first start taking your clients out, we need to educate them on what we're going to need. We're going to need proof of funds so that when we write especially in today's environment where there's a zillion offers on every property, we're going to make sure that they've talked to a lender and we have a copy of their pre-approval letter or pre-qual letter. We want to make sure that the buyers can get to us quickly their proof of funds, which is their bank statement, their 401k, whatever their funds are coming from, enough to close. So we need to make sure that they're aware that this is how it's going to be, especially if they're first-time home buyers, they're going to need to know the process. So it's also a good time to make sure if they are pulling money from a retirement account or from stocks that they're going to sell or something, have them do it now, make the funds liquid so we don't have to use the increased deposit. Okay? Any questions?
I have a quick question. Can you hear? If you have only 3 days to put in the deposit, sometimes you don't get an answer from the client, from the seller's agent.
We don't do. What do you mean an answer? Well, at this point, if we're depositing it, we have signed
ready acceptance. Okay, I thought this was just to sign your residential purchase agreement while you're.
No. This is once we open escrow.
Okay, sorry about that.
The buyer's agreeing that once, if we're lucky enough that they accept our offer.
Yeah.
Once it says upon acceptance.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Upon acceptance of our offer, you have 3 calendar days to deposit the funds to escrow. It's right here. If you see finance terms, there's A or 1 or 2. The deposit shall be held in cash until acceptance and then deposited with escrow holder within 3 business days after acceptance. So no money is exchanged until we have an accepted offer.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Whitney, let's go down to, so if it's an all cash offer, you'll check box C. No loan is needed to purchase this property. This offer is not contingent on buyer obtaining a loan. Written verification of sufficient funds to close in this transaction is attached to this offer. Okay, so that's if it's an all cash. D is for loans. Okay, so on this offer, we're doing an 80-20 loan, I believe. Maybe not. Times 80. Yeah, we are. So if they're qualified, the pre-qual letter says they're doing an 80-20 loan. That means that they're financing $1.2 million because you're going to do 80% of $1.5 million is $1.2 million. So first loan in the amount of, you're going to type in there 1.2. This loan will be conventional financing or FHA or VA or seller financing. So if it's conventional, we don't check any of those boxes, right? Because it already says right there, this loan will be conventional financing. If it's assumed, right now, because interest rates are so low, that we're not seeing a lot of adjustable rate loans. So this loan shall be at a fixed rate not to exceed. Please make sure you put a percentage in there. If interest rates like right now are about 3%, I would pad it. I would put 3.5. This is an older contract. I would put about 3.5, but make sure you put something there. So if interest rates skyrocket to 5%, and we locked them in well, not locking them in, but we said that the rate will not exceed 3.5. If they go up, the buyer's got an out. See what I mean? So interest rates fluctuate. They're different every day, a little bit usually, but I've seen it where they've gone up real quick. So you want to put an amount in there. We had a situation it wasn't last year, it must have been 2 years ago. An agent wrote about a $2 million offer for their client. She didn't put anything in here, okay? In the agreement, the buyer had agreed to dual with the lender to apply, to have their lender, the sellers wanted their lender to review to make sure that they're solid buyers, that they can get a loan. So they agreed to that. You can't dictate what lender you use. So they used their lender, but it was in the contract that they had to apply with their lender. Anyways, long story short, they ended up canceling the transaction because they couldn't get the loan. And then because they didn't put an amount in there, this listing agent said, wait a minute, my lender can get them a loan. It's going to be 6%, but they can get them a loan. Because we didn't put a cap on there, a ceiling on there, they either had to go that or they were in jeopardy of losing their deposit. Those people ended up buying another house while their money stayed in escrow. 3% of $2 million is a nice chunk of change. And it stayed in escrow for about a year. They were fighting over it. Turned out the seller they had some health issues and he didn't need any negativity and he released it all back to them. But, so you've got our job is, in this case, we're writing an offer for a buyer. So your job is to protect them and their monies. So please make sure to put a percentage in there. Whatever the going rate is the day you're writing the offer, pad it by about 0.5 point. So again, if today interest rates are 3%, put 3.5 in there, okay? If it's an adjustable rate, then you're going to fill that in. But again, we're not seeing a lot of adjustable rate mortgages right now because interest rates are so low. Regardless of the type of the loan, buyers shall pay points not to exceed 1% of the loan amount. I always put that 1 in there so the lender can't gouge them. Okay? Not that they can anymore because there's so many restrictions, RESPA violations and such. So does that make sense? So we're going to make sure to fill out paragraph D1. Second loan, if they are getting a second loan, to make it simple, I left that alone. And then if it's FHA or VA, they need to address that paragraph. There is a form, a CAR form for FHA that they would have to, or VA that they would have to submit. Additional financing terms. Can you scroll down a little bit? Additional financing terms, that could be left blank. The only time I've really used that, if it's a first-time home buyer and they, they're tight on cash, they can ask the seller to finance their closing costs. So they could offer full price, but ask for the seller to pay for their closing costs not to exceed, they can't go further than 3%. So they could say, seller to pay buyer's closing costs not to exceed $5,000 or something like that. So you don't, on $1.5 million property, you don't see that a lot. You usually just see it, and not even in this environment where it's a seller's market. But that's the only time I've ever really used additional financing terms. So if there's anything out of the ordinary, you want to put it in there. Balance of down payment or purchase price. If you guys are on car forms, you see that filled it in by itself. It calculates it now for you. So you just put in the 3% at the top, the loan amount, and it'll fill in the balance of the down payment. And that the buyer puts in escrow when it's coming to fund. When it's towards the end of escrow, the buyer will put the rest of their 20% in there in escrow. And the total purchase price is $1.5 million. Does anybody have any questions? This financing page is real important. No questions? All right. Let's go to page 2. All right, verification of down payment and closing costs. Buyer or buyer's lender or loan broker shall within 3 days after acceptance deliver to seller written verification of buyer's down payment and closing costs. Remember when we were earlier, I talked about when you're with your buyers showing them property, you're going to educate them and tell them what to get prepared for. One of them was proof of funds, the verification. Where's this money coming from? They need to show like $300,000. So if they have 10 million, show that. Show the sellers how strong they are. So you want a copy of a bank statement. If you do get a copy of a bank statement from your buyers, take a Sharpie and cross out the account number, because now we're emailing them to the listing agent and we don't need it going out into cyberspace with their account number and their balance. So to protect them, and buyers love seeing that you're taking that extra step to protect them. So just scratch out their account number, but we need their name and the balance. Like a Bank of America statement or Wells Fargo, wherever they bank, wherever their funds are, we need a copy. And it might be 3 statements to add up to the deposit. So you make sure it's especially in this environment where we're getting multiple offers on every listing, attach it with, check that box and verifications attached. So they have the offer and they have proof of funds. Okay. The next one, I, is appraisal contingency and removal. This agreement is or is not contingent upon written appraisal of the property by a licensed and certified appraiser at no less than the purchase price. Buyer shall, as specified in paragraph 14B, in writing, remove the appraisal contingency or cancel this agreement within 17 days after acceptance. Not a good idea to remove the appraisal contingency. However, I'm seeing it a lot because of the multiple offer situations. Houses are selling for more than they're valued at. If your buyer's going to do that, they need to know that the lender will lend. If it's like in this situation, it's an 80-20 loan. The lender's going to lend 80% of the appraised value. So if it doesn't appraise at $1.5 million, the buyer's got to come up with the difference. In this situation, because we're not removing our appraisal contingency, if the appraisal contingency stays in effect and it appraises, in this situation, it's $1.5 million, let's say it appraises at $1.4 million, then the buyer can do one of 3 things. They can either cancel, they can renegotiate the price, maybe the seller will come down since the appraised value is $1.4 million, or they can come up with the difference in cash. I've seen all 3 situations happen. It's amazing how many people are coming up with the difference in cash. Okay, so that's if it's in place. If it's not, if you remove your contingency, your appraisal contingency, your buyer needs to be aware that no matter what price it comes in at, they might have to come in with cash. Okay, so if they agree on $1.5 million and it appraises at $1.4 million and they don't have a contingency removal, they can't cancel because it appraised low or lower than they wrote for. So be careful when removing appraisal contingencies. Make sure your buyer's aware what it means, okay? Day, loan terms. Loan applications within 3 days after acceptance. Buyer shall deliver to seller a letter from buyer's lender or loan broker stating that based on a review of buyer's written application and credit report, buyer is pre-qualified or pre-approved for any new loan specified in paragraph 3D. If any loan specified in paragraph 3, why am I trying to read without glasses? There we go, there it is. If any loan specified in paragraph 3D is an adjustable rate loan, the pre-qual or pre-approval letter shall be based on the qualifying rate, not the initial loan rate. And then you check, if you check the box that the letter is attached, especially in today's environment, that's what you want to do. So you have the purchase agreement, the proof of funds, and the pre-approval letter from the lender. A lot of listing agents, I know I do, when I get that, I'm going to pick up the phone. If I have multiple offers, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call that lender and talk to him about our client. So if you're representing a buyer, in this case we are because we're writing the purchase agreement, you want to make sure we get that letter attached. You want to attach it. If you don't check that box and you don't attach it, then you have 3 days after acceptance to get it to the listing agent. It might not get that far if it's a multiple offer situation. So in this environment where we're getting multiple offers, it's best to get the proof of funds and the pre-approval letter and attach them both. Any questions? Loan contingency, buyer shall act diligently and in good faith to obtain the designated loans. Buyer's qualification for loans specified is a contingency of this agreement. The next line on 3, it says loan contingency removal. Within 21 or blank days after acceptance, buyer shall, as specified in paragraph 14, remove the loan contingency or cancel this agreement. If there is appraisal contingency, removal of the loan contingency shall not be deemed removal of the appraisal contingency. If you see something come in with less than 21 days for a loan contingency, I haven't seen any lenders be able to get full approval, full loan approval sooner than 21 days. I'm sorry, 1 second. I'm teaching a class. Can I call you right back? Bye. Sorry, my daughter's pregnant and she called, so she's really pregnant.
Congrats to her.
Thank you. Due on my birthday. Is that cool or what? My first grandbaby. Anyway.
There you go.
Double presents.
Best present I could ask for. So you want to do a 21-day loan contingency. If the lender can do it sooner, God bless them, because it's not easy to do. So I wouldn't do anything lower than a 21-day. If there's no loan contingency, you would check that box. Again, I don't know why you would do that. If they don't get their loan, if you check the box that you're removing the loan contingency and they removed all their other contingencies, then they're in jeopardy of losing their deposit, that $45,000 that we put into escrow at the beginning. So let's not remove the loan. And I don't like to remove the loan contingency until the lender has told me you've got full approval. It's okay to remove it. Okay. Whitney, can we scroll down a little bit? Without questions, we're going to get far in this, but I really like questions. So I hope you guys are understanding. Don't be afraid to ask me a question. Okay. Lender limits on buyer credits. If there's a buyer credit, they can't do more than 3% of the purchase price. Buyer stated financing. I'm not going to get into these because these don't see them very often. But read through them at your leisure and get familiar with everything. If you have any questions, you can always call your mentor or me. Sale of buyer's property. So if your buyer needs to sell the money from their house, then they need to sell their house to buy this house. So it's contingent upon that house selling, then you need to check this box. This agreement and buyer's ability to obtain financing are not contingent upon the sale of any property owned by buyer. Or if you check that box, this agreement and buyer's ability to obtain financing are contingent upon the sale of property owned by buyers as specified in the document and the attached addendum, CAR Form COP. So when you check that form, CAR Form COP should populate then. And on CAR Form COP, it's going to say what the property address is that they have to sell. You're going to have boxes to check whether it's listed, whether it's in escrow, and if it is in escrow, the escrow company and the escrow name. You're going to have to include all that. So if they have to sell their house to buy, now it's a contingent deal. If there's multiple offers, it's going to be kind of tough. In this environment today, if you have that situation where they want to move up, so but they have to sell this house, they need the money from their house, their current house, to buy the next house, it's best to put it on the market, get it in escrow. So, and there's ways, and I'm not going to go into too many details because it depends on each sellers are different on what they need. But that's what I would recommend, is to get their house into escrow and while you're looking for houses. So then that agreement, it shouldn't be, the contingency shouldn't be as severe than if you wrote this offer and they hadn't even listed their house yet, then we're gonna have a problem. Or it's been listed for 2 months and it's still active, then there might be a problem. So, but that's what paragraph 4 is about. Paragraph 5 is addenda and advisories. If any of these are needed, like if there's a septic or a well on the property, you're going to check that box, and CAR Form SWPI will be filled out. If it's a short sale, then you need a short sale addendum. Probate, trust, any of these, you're gonna check the box and you're going to include it in the offer. You'll notice the buyer's inspection advisory comes checked because it's already been added to the purchase agreement. And then the number 6 is other terms. Can we scroll down a little bit? Whitney? Thank you. Wake up, Whitney. Perfect, thank you. Okay, other terms, if there's anything else you want to include. Allocation of costs. Inspections, reports, and certificates. Unless otherwise agreed in writing, this paragraph only determines who is to pay for the inspection, test, certificate, or service. It does not determine who's to pay for any work recommended. So number 1, you'll notice that in a transaction, the seller pays for most of the closing costs. Everything's negotiable, but customarily the seller pays for it. So this is for the NHD report. What is the Natural Hazard Zone Disclosure Report? It's a report that shows if the house is in a fire zone, a flood zone, earthquake, if you're sitting on a fault line, high wind zone, and it changes all the time. When we had the fires, that went from Chatsworth all the way to the ocean, those houses were impacted. Now they're in a high fire zone. In a year or two, it'll be taken off. But anyhow, we want the seller to pay for an NHD report. These are not waivable. We have to get them done. Premier NHD is our company. They're the best and the least expensive. I think it's $65 for an NHD report. And I always check the box, including environmental. Okay, and the seller's going to pay for it, $65. And that lets the buyer know. The buyer might not want to be in a fire zone. Maybe they've had a bad experience before, or whatever. But that's a report. It will be ordered through escrow, by escrow, and it's one of the first reports your client will get. And they'll review, and then they have to sign that they agree to it. And then number 2, seller shall pay. There's 2 blank ones in case there's something else you want another report that you want done. Sometimes you see a termite inspection and you want the seller to pay for. Lenders don't like to see that because if a termite inspection report is mentioned on the RPA, then the lender's going to have to see a termite clearance. So a lot of us are just doing a termite inspection when we do our other inspections. And then if we want the seller to pay for it, we'll do a request for repairs. Then we go to 7B, that's government required and requirements and retrofit. This too is not waivable. It's required by the government to retrofit, okay? It's not, unless the house is boarded up and falling down, we can't waive it. If somebody's gonna come in and knock the house down, but it's still a solid house, we're not going to waive it. They still need to do a smoke alarm. There needs to be a smoke alarm in every bedroom and in the hallway leading to the bedrooms in working order. There needs to be a carbon monoxide detector, one on each floor. Water heater needs to be braced, earthquake straps. The seismic gas shutoff valve needs to be installed on the gas meter. If any of you guys were, some of you weren't even born, but in 1994, Northridge had a big earthquake, and there were a lot of fires because the gas lines broke. So we have now a seismic shutoff valve. So if there's a shaker, it automatically shuts off the gas to the house. So that is something that's now required for Los Angeles. If you're selling in Ventura, it's not required out there. It's just to make things more confusing. But we do want the seller to pay for wherever their house is, the sellers to pay for whatever requirements are for that county. Now, Los Angeles, I mean, the state of California.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead and I'll ask.
Real quick, the state of California, it's a law. Doesn't matter what county you're in, that you have to have low flow toilets and shower heads, and you have to have carbon monoxide detectors. That's a state law. And then government required retrofitting are the smoke detectors and some other, the earthquake straps and other things. Go ahead. What's your question?
So the question was, what about smoke detectors? Do we have to have each on one?
I think that was you, Harry, but you went muted. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was asking if smoke detectors also have to be one on each floor?
No, smoke detectors have to be one in each bedroom and one in the hallways leading to the bedroom. So
got it. Thank you.
Let's say there's a bedroom downstairs. There has to be one in the bedroom and one in the room leading to the bedroom. So it's two. And then you go upstairs and there's 3 bedrooms on one side, 1, 2, 3, one in each room, and then one in the hallway leading to that room. And then over here's the master, one in the master bedroom and one leading to that room. So you figure fires, usually, that way if everybody's sleeping, it'll wake them up. Don't put them in the kitchen or the living room. Just the bedrooms. The idea is to wake people up if there's a fire. Okay?
Understood.
And then the carbon monoxide detector, that is one on each floor.
Can I ask
the hallway, like by the bedrooms. Go ahead.
Hi, Dimitra. On item 6, other terms, can you give an example of something that might affect and to put something in it?
Kind of what I said on the first page. If the buyer wanted the seller to pay for any of their closing costs, they could put it there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not used very often, but if there's anything that needs to be addressed in the contract, that's where it would go.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this page?
Yes, Dimitra, I have a question and it's not on this page. I'm looking for appropriate time to ask you.
Okay.
At any given time, if you feel it's appropriate, would you explain the DocuSign or e-sign that we can use? Which one is more practical to use?
Sure, I can. I mean, I think it's a personal choice. I love DocuSign and I hate e-sign. So, but and you get DocuSign, I believe, for free from the company. So I think it's more user friendly. I know it better, so I'm more comfortable with it. So I would prefer DocuSign, but it's really a personal choice. I would say to use both and figure out which one you like best.
Okay, so e-sign, the person receiving it, they don't have to be a member of e-sign, correct?
Well, yeah, no, because it would be a buyer or seller that wouldn't be. Same with DocuSign.
Got it. Okay, thanks very much.
I've used both and I prefer DocuSign.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next page, please. How are we on time? Oh, we're doing pretty good. Bella, are you here? Nope. Okay. So the page before, remember it was government required retrofits. It starts on the page before that we had the seller. We marked the seller to pay for the smoke detectors. And then it continues here. Sellers, where'd it go? Okay. Sellers shall pay the cost of compliance and any other minimum mandatory government inspections and reports as required as a condition of closing. Sellers shall pay for the cost of compliance with any other minimum mandatory government required standards. So we want to check seller on all three of these. I say three because the first one was on the page, the previous page. Okay. Don't ask me if we can waive them because you cannot waive the government required retrofitting. Again, unless the house is boarded and is half there, it's got to be bulldozed. There was a fire or something. But otherwise, the reason we had a situation a few years back where they had waived the government required retrofitting because the buyers weren't going to live there. Well, they moved in and the little girl died because there's a carbon monoxide leak and there was no carbon monoxide detectors. So I'm adamant about our attorneys will not let us waive this. It's a government requirement. Government can't waive it. So we want to also know that when you are the listing agent, when the appraisal's coming out, they won't appraise the property unless they see carbon monoxide detectors. I usually have some in my trunk because a lot of people still don't have them. That way you just plug them in, they're good for 10 years. You get 2 for $39 at Home Depot. So make sure to have those, have your sellers install those. Okay. Next is escrow and title. This is what you want to put in there. You check both boxes. Buyer and seller shall pay escrow fees, each to pay own. Don't put 50-50 because the fees might be more for the seller or more for the buyer. So you don't want to split 50-50. Each pay their own escrow fees. Escrow holders shall be seller's choice. In today's environment, I would call the listing agent, and I know Rodeo, I used to work there. I would call the listing agent, and I know that Rodeo's escrow is Encore Escrow. The seller chooses select services. The sellers select services. So that means a Rodeo agent is going to want Encore Escrow. So I would call Sheila, the listing agent. This is Demetra. I'm writing an offer on 3095 Eaglewood Avenue in Thousand Oaks. What escrow company do you want? What title company do you want? You want to make sure you want to write it so that to avoid a counteroffer. Because while you're countering silly things like escrow and title back and forth, another offer might come in and they'll sell it to them. So in order to get your offer as clean, and I think that agents really appreciate that when you call and say, how many offers do you have? I'm writing right now. Who's your escrow? Who's your title? Who's your NHD? What home warranty do you want? I just put it all there to avoid counters. Then there's usually the only thing that we're going to be discussing is probably the price, if anything. Okay. So check both boxes. Escrow holder shall be seller's choice, or I would find out what is the seller's choice.
Demetra, I have a question. You said just to make sure, you said to call the escrow company and not the seller's agent?
No, did I say escrow company?
No. Oh, I just want to make sure that.
You don't know what the escrow company is. You need to call
okay. Okay, I thought I heard escrow company. That's why I was wondering.
If I misspoke, I apologize. No, you call the listing agent and that's the escrow company they want and what title company.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. I talk wrong a lot, so I very easily could have said that. My kids tease me all the time for using the wrong words.
I must have misheard you. I don't think you did.
Okay. Oh, good, Bella. You are there. You're next. Okay.
Oh, perfect. Hello, everybody.
I was looking for you a minute ago. Okay, we're not ready for you yet.
Okay.
Okay. So just pipe down, woman.
Oh.
Okay. Same thing for title. Seller shall pay for owner's title insurance. Owner's title insurance policy to be issued by seller's choice, or ask the listing agent when you call, what title company do you want? Okay, and then you can put the title company's name in there. D is, can you scroll down a little bit, Whitney, please? So see how we're asking the seller to pay for all these things. Seller shall pay county transfer tax. Seller shall pay city transfer tax. Seller shall pay homeowners association transfer fee. Don't check that if there's no homeowners. If there's no homeowners association, there's no homeowners transfer tax, so you don't have to check it. But if there is, in this case, in this property, there is, you want the seller to pay for it. Seller shall pay for HOA fees for preparing all documents other than those required by civil code. Seller shall pay for any private transfer fee. I always check it and then put if applicable. What is this private transfer fee? In Santa Clarita, you see there's something called Melrose. So anything like that, I always check it because you never know, especially if you're going outside of LA, if applicable. And then the other two sellers shall pay for, if there's something else you want them to pay for, you put it there. I can't think of anything that could be. Sellers shall pay for the cost not to exceed $900 of a standard, or you always check upgraded 1-year home warranty plan issued by my friend Bella Klasky at Fidelity National Home Warranty with the following optional coverages. Buyers informed that a home warranty plans have many optional coverages in addition to those listed above. Buyers advised to investigate these coverages to determine those that may be suitable for buyer. If they're, for some reason, because they're going to bulldoze the house and they want to waive the purchase of a home warranty plan, they would check that box. Okay. Luckily, we have my girl Bella Klasky here from Fidelity National Home Warranty to explain to you a little bit about home warranties, and I'm so glad to have you here, Bill. And you guys have any questions when she's done, please feel free to ask. Go ahead.
Well, yes, hi. Hello, good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is Bella Klasky. I'm with Fidelity National Home Warranty. So for those of you that don't know what a home warranty is or how the whole thing works, for the most part, you would normally request the seller to provide a home warranty for the buyer. And it's mainly for to ensure that no problems arise, or pretty much it's a CYA policy, okay, just so that you guys know. So as far as putting it in the contract, right in that section, on section D under number 10, home warranty, there is a drop down where you could always have it preset and put in Fidelity National Home Warranty in there. So the minute you put in the offer, it shows up and you just fill in the blank, okay? As far as ordering home warranty, I always recommend you, the agent, order the home warranty. There's many ways to do that. You can either call it in yourself, or you can contact me. I did leave all my information in the box so that you guys can get down my number and my email. So anytime you need anything, any assistance with anything, you please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you out, to guide you, and to explain things for you. But in the meantime, I would love for everybody to download one of our brochures. I think Demetra has a copy of it, so she can forward it to you, or else you can just shoot me an email, ask me for the brochure, and I'll be more than happy to provide it to you so that you can get familiarized with it, and you can also provide it to your buyers so that they can choose the different options, because there's a lot of options. There's not one set price does it all, okay, just so that you know. Any questions so far? You're all good. All right, so mainly the home warranty will cover the systems and appliances in the home. And there is, under the different plans, we have like 3 good plans. Of course, the best one is called the Enhanced Plus plan. And that one it's bundled together, so it covers the air conditioner, the water heater, the upgrade, all the appliances. So that is the best plan that we have, okay? Because it also covers modifications. Modifications happen when we need to change out a water heater or an air conditioner. The state has imposed all kinds of rules where we have to make everything environmentally friendly and safe. So those charges will be incurred to the homeowner. So just an FYI, those can climb up pretty high. And that plan, the Enhanced Plus plan, will cover up to $1,000 of those modifications. So always consider when you're putting in the offer to count to put in enough money to be able to cover that. Now there's also a whole bunch of other options that you can add to it. And I would recommend checking with the buyer for them to look it up and see what else they would like to put in there before you submit that order. And of course, when in doubt, I always say, please call me. Call me before you submitted the offer and you didn't put enough money in there, because you don't want to be responsible of paying the difference out of your commission. Any questions so far? Anybody doesn't know what a home warranty is or never heard of it or have any questions? Well, you all know all of it. Okay. This is, I mean, I don't have a lot of time to go into a lot of details here, but I would really suggest that whenever you put in an order, I normally, okay, will send you a thank you. In that thank you, I am providing you with all the information that you need to provide to your buyers. So they understand once they have a home warranty, they know what to expect, when they're going to get the contract, what coverage they have, if they need to do any changes. Anything that they need to do is going to be in that email. So I beg you, please do not delete me. Take a look at that, okay, and just check it out and forward all that information to your buyers so they're in the know, all right? Any other questions, anything? Are we all good?
So this is Peter Hong. You cover the air condition, dishwasher, and
yes,
heater.
Yes. Oh, you can get all the appliances covered, but it's up to you what you order. Okay, it depends on the kind of plan that you choose. The plan that I was just telling you about, the Enhanced Plus plan, will cover all those appliances and the air conditioner and the water heater and pretty much all the plumbing, all the electrical, but it's mainly inside the main house. The policy does not cover outside of the main foundation. So if they have problems with the sprinklers or they have problems with a gas leak on the outside, we do not cover that. If the gas leak is in the inside of the house, it will be covered.
How about pools?
Pool, you can order pool coverage, but it's an additional $175, and we will cover the pool equipment only. We do not cover the physical pool or anything in it.
Can you quote me roughly how much would it cost if you include everything?
What is everything? Do you want to include? Okay, here are all the options that you can include. Okay, so let's say you get the Enhanced Plus plan, which is $630, and that already includes the air conditioner, the upgrades, all the appliances, the water heater, all that. But you wanted to add pool, you would add $170 to that pool. If you wanted to add roof coverage, that is another $100. If you wanted to add a septic tank, that is another $75. If you would like to add a water softener system, that's another $80. So there's a lot of other options that you can add, but are a la carte.
And
so
Peter, I think it'd be a good idea for him to see the list, to see what all the different options are, because
the
not apply to your house.
That's why I said the list is in the brochure. Everything that you need to know about it is in the brochure. It's on page 16. So if you don't want to contact me for that, you can log into homewarranty.com, go to Fidelity Home Warranty, and just download the brochure. It's right there. Very easy access. Perfect. I'll repeat, homewarranty.com.
Homewarranty.com.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, now the other thing that you guys need to know is that everybody can get a home warranty. Most people think that the only way you can get a home warranty is if you're going through ESCO, and that is false. Anybody can get a home warranty. The difference, if somebody comes recommended from an agent or from me to get the order placed, then they can get this price, the real estate price. Otherwise, they're going to pay the retail price, which is about $150 more than the listed price in the brochure. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to say just to so that everybody understands, because I think sometimes people are not wanting to ask too many questions that they might think are dumb. But a home warranty, the seller's going to pay for it, and the buyer, and it's a year. It's for the first year. When that year's up, the buyer's going to get something in the mail from home warranty. They can either let it expire or they can keep it going. The buyer, then the owner of the home, would now pay for it for the next year. If their air conditioner goes out, you pay $75 for an air conditioner company to come out and either repair it, or if it's unrepairable, replace it. Same for the water heater. I had them come out. I had to pay $75 each time for my dishwasher. It was an old dishwasher. They kept fixing it. Dang it. Until finally it was unfixable. It finally died. And for $75, I got a new dishwasher. Same with my water heater. Got a new water heater. My pool heater went out. Got a new pool heater. My pool man says it's the Cadillac of pool heaters, so I'm happy with it. But it's, if the air conditioner goes out, you've got to maintain your air conditioner. You've got to change the vent and everything. You can't, not maintain it, or they're not going to cover it. If it's filthy and the filter's never been changed for 5 years, and that's why it died, you might have a problem. So anyways, just so that you know, it's $75. The buyer would call the home warranty, say my air conditioner went out. They have one of their air conditioner techs will call you to schedule an appointment, and they come out and fix it.
Okay, something important, if I may chime in. Okay, home warranty works pretty much like an HMO. You have to go within the system. You cannot go outside of the system, get it repaired, and send us the bill. That is not how it works. You need to call our service department to put in a claim, and then, things move from there. They contact the technician will contact the homeowner, set up an appointment. So those are the steps that need to be taken. So those are questions that are asked very often by the homeowner. Unfortunately, they ask about it after the fact, after they've called somebody, got it repaired, because they did not understand what a home warranty does or doesn't do. And they've asked to get reimbursement. And unfortunately, that is not going to happen. So just keep that in mind. That's why it's very important to inform and educate your clients. Okay. And of course, by educating your clients, you need to be educated first. So that's why I'm here for you guys. So anytime you need any answers or any guidance or any doubt, just please contact me.
Okay, very good, Bella. I've been working with her for 20 years, and she's the best. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, and good luck to all of you, and I hope to hear from you soon. All right?
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, care. Back to me. Whitney, can you go to scroll down the page a little bit so we can read paragraph 8. Are there any questions with home warranty? I think we covered everything. The next one is items included and excluded from the sale. This is really important. This can be some of the times I get involved with lawsuits or with potential lawsuits. We've got several going right now. This is where you make it clear what the buyer wants included and what the buyer wants excluded. The house might be vacant, but they left the big swing set in the back. If your buyers don't want it there, you need to exclude it from the sale. So paragraph 8, items included in and excluded from sale. Note to buyer and seller. Items listed as included or excluded in the MLS, flyers, or marketing materials are not included in the purchase price or excluded from the sale unless specified in paragraphs 8B or C. Items included in so even if it's mentioned in the MLS, doesn't mean it's included. It has to be included here on your purchase agreement, okay? Just because it's listed on a flyer that it's included, unless both buyer and seller sign it, which is here on the purchase agreement, it's not included, okay? So items included in the sale, except as otherwise specified or disclosed. All existing fixtures and fittings that are attached to the property. Existing electrical, mechanical, lighting, plumbing, and heating fixtures, ceiling fans, fireplace inserts, gas logs and grates, solar power systems, built-in appliances, window and door screens, awnings, shutters, window coverings, attached floor coverings, television antennas, satellite dishes, air coolers and conditioners, pool spa equipment, garage door openers, remote controls, mailbox, in-ground landscaping, tree shrubs, water features and fountains, water softeners, water purifiers, security systems, alarms, and the following if checked. All stoves, all refrigerators except, all washers and dryers except. Okay, so that's everything that's included in with this, with the house. Even if the stove is built in, I check that it's staying, or that I want it to stay, because I don't want the buyers to tear it out, the sellers to tear it out. So check stove. If they want the refrigerator, excuse me, even if it's built in, I'm going to check all refrigerators. If you don't want the refrigerator in the garage, you can check except garage refrigerator, okay? All washers and dryers, if you want the seller to leave it there, then you want to check it, okay? You want it included in the sale. The following additional items. If you want their patio furniture, or if there's something else that your buyer wants them to leave there that they want included in the sale, they would list it there. Existing integrated phone and home automation systems, including necessary components such as intranet and internet connected hardware or devices, control units other than non-dedicated mobile devices, and applied software permissions, passwords, codes, and accessible information are or are not included in the sale. So if you leave it blank, they are included. Leased or liened items and systems, seller shall within the time specified in paragraph 14A disclose to buyer of any item or system specified in paragraph 8B or otherwise included in the sale, leased, or not owned by seller. Or specifically subject to a lien or other encumbrance. Deliver to buyer all written materials such as lease, warranty, etc. concerning any such item. Buyer's ability to assume any such lease or willingness to accept the property subject to such lien encumbrance is a contingency in favor of buyer and seller as specified in paragraph 14B and C. So this is more, you're seeing a lot of this with water softeners and with solar panels. Some solar panels are purchased, some are leased. So, and same with water softeners. So the seller's got, what was the time frame? They've got to disclose that to the buyer. Okay? The time frame specified in paragraph 14A. We'll get to paragraph 14A, which is a real important one. I hope you all come back tomorrow so we can go over the contingency period.
Demetra, may I ask you a question? So the buyer has a choice to not want the solar panel regardless if it's lease or purchase, yes?
If I've never seen a deal, a seller accept that, because
okay,
in order to take off the solar panels, you need to put a new roof on.
Oh, got it.
What happened to my page, Whitney? There we are. Thank you. So yeah, they're not going to remove it because then they have to put a whole new roof on. And I don't know why you, well, whatever. So we'll get into paragraph 14 and all that tomorrow. Then we go to see if you can go down just a little bit with the items excluded from the sale unless otherwise specified. The following items are excluded from the sale. Audio and video components such as flat screen TVs, even though they're built in, they're, you know, they might be put up on the wall with a bracket, but they're excluded unless you want to include them. Everything's negotiable, right? Audio and video components such as flat screen TV, speakers, and other items. If any such item is not itself attached to the property, even if a bracket or other mechanism attached to the component or item is attached to the property. Furniture and other items secured to the property for earthquake purposes, So if you have a cabinet that's bolted to the wall so it doesn't come down in an earthquake, that doesn't mean it's included. That doesn't mean it's attached to the property. It's attached there for earthquake purposes, okay? Doesn't mean it stays. Whitney, can you go down a little bit? Thank you. Bottom of the page, perfect. Okay, so brackets attached to the walls, floors, or ceilings for any such component, furniture, or item shall remain with the property, or if you check this box, will be removed, and the holes or other damage shall be repaired but not painted. So that means if you don't want the brackets, if you want them to take their TV and their bracket off and patch the hole that the bracket left on the wall, you would check that box. Okay, they're not going to paint it, but they'll patch it. Any questions on the included or excluded items? Real important to keep it here. We've got several issues right now. We've got one with a condo that on the MLS, it said it had a storage space. Some units did, some didn't. This one didn't. But on the MLS, it said it did. It was clerical error. Now that they've closed and discovered they don't have a storage space, they're coming after my agent for $10,000 for their storage space. It wasn't included in the contract, so we're fighting them. But anyways, you just don't want the headache, so you make sure it's everything's up front on this contract, okay? What time is it? Oh, I think we'll stop there. So tomorrow we'll start with paragraph 9, closing and possession. Does anybody have any questions on anything we covered or anything we didn't cover or anything in general real estate related?
Hi, Demetria. Charlene, I have a question about when you're in car and you're filling this out in car, where do you store it? Do you save it to a folder?
When you fill it out, it'll ask you if you want to save it. And you do want to save it. And it'll start a folder. Every transaction you do, it'll save it forever unless you go in there and delete it.
Okay.
When you do, I always keep mine under the property street name. Some people will have it under their client's name. It just depends. I use the street name, and if I happen to have sold 2 on that street, I'll put the street name, comma, and then the address. And it'll keep everything forever until you go in. And I don't delete them. The only things I delete, like this, I had to create a file for teaching purposes. So this one I deleted because it's an old one. But yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, it'll keep everything. And you can always go back to it. So when you're in escrow, and if you need disclosures or you need a car form, you'll open up that file, and then you'll pull those forms into that file, and it'll keep it again.
Okay.
It'll keep the addition. Okay. Good question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Anna. So my question is, what if during offer we put that my buyer wants to put a 20% down, and then during the loan process, my buyer changes his mind and he wants to put like 15% down only?
Okay. Because you agreed. See, he might have had multiple offers. One of the reasons he chose yours might have been because it's a big down payment.
Right.
So anytime you're going to change what's on this contract, the buyer and the seller have to agree to it. So you would do an addendum to the RPA, an addendum to the purchase agreement, asking, we want to change our deposit from 20% to 15%. If they agree, then they can. Otherwise, they have to stick to the terms of the contract.
Oh, okay, so before doing it, we have to be in agreement with the seller.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, if they're going to go from 15 to 20, the seller's not going to have a problem with that because that's a stronger loan, right? So, but anytime you take away from, you make something not as attractive as it was in the offer, it needs to be agreed to. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
A question, Demetria. Hi. We haven't got to it yet. We'll get to it tomorrow, but I'm in the situation now, so maybe you can answer. So, for example, 10F says for a condominium of planned development, the seller has 7 days after acceptance to disclose the property information. But then on next page, it says the seller has 3 days after acceptance for the forms. And then we go to 14B where the buyer says, okay, you have 7 days. So how long do we have to get them?
7 days for disclosures. But wait, so this is just for condominium disclosures because it's got to be ordered by the HOA. So go back to 10F. Seller has 7 days after acceptance to disclose to buyer if the property is a condominium or is located in a planned development.
Okay, so we just
okay, and then to continue on to the next page, if the property is a condominium or is located in a planned development, seller has 3 days after acceptance to request the HOA forms.
Oh, I see. I thought I was
going to read through the paragraph because it's giving different time frames because it's for different. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question, though. Anybody else?
Hey, Demetra, I actually do have a question for you. If let's say that the seller has whatever they're like, you're going to get the stove, you're going to get all the fixtures, but then when you're going through the property, they're like, oh, you know what? We furnished this ADU and you're also going to get a TV, the coffee maker, all the silverware. And do you just take their word for it, or do you get that in on the contract and
in writing with signatures? Everything should be in writing because if you ever watch Judge Judy or any of those shows, if it's not in writing, how do you prove it? So if they tell you that they're going to leave it and you go to escrow closes and you go to move in and it's gone, you've got no proof that that was part of the deal. Everything needs to be in writing.
Is that pretty easy to let's say you already wrote you made the offer already and then you find out later that the seller is they're not going to take any of the stuff with them, and you're like, as a buyer, you want to make sure, because it basically happened to me and I want to kind of learn from my own mistakes, but and they haven't taken all the stuff back. We have a good relationship with them, but just for my buyers in the future, you just amend that contract and you get everything on there. Is that what you would do?
Well, it depends if you want them to leave everything, because as the contract is written, the sellers to leave the property free and clear of all debris. So and debris could be silverware, it could be the couch, it could be the TVs, it could be everything. So what if you didn't want the stuff they left behind? You've got to agree that they can leave it behind.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Well,
but if buyer and seller are in agreement that the buyer wants it, the seller wants to leave it, it needs to be on an addendum or something. So if we have to go to court, we have proof that it was, everybody was on the same page.
And do you usually have to be fairly specific? Because if they say leave TV, but then it's they have a TV in the garage that's way smaller versus the TV they pointed to when they were telling you about this, do you specify the items?
To leave TV from the ADU TV that's currently there, along with all of the appliances or the furniture or whatever, the furnishings, whatever that is currently in the ADU.
Gotcha. So you specify.
Take pictures.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. It's kind of sad, but you always got to look at things that might have to prove. And just being in this position for so long, you a lot of times got to prove that everybody was in agreement, because people have funny memories sometimes. Okay.
I have a quick question regarding that, to piggyback on what Dimitri had asked.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a seller and they said, okay, we're going to leave the refrigerator, and the refrigerator is not working, can they come back to the firm and ask, can we say that it's as is appliances so that if they're not in working order?
Well, if it's not in working order, why would the buyer want it?
I don't know. I'm just
saying. They're
saying.
going to have to dump it. So all appliances. I
mean, the buyer didn't know, oh, I'm going to leave the gas. It was a gas grill in the backyard, but it didn't work. It needed maintenance, but they left it. But
yeah, they don't warrant that anything that they're leaving, any appliances are in working order. They don't warrant that. Back in the day when I first started this 97 years ago, the sellers would warrant the appliances. It led to a lot of lawsuits, but home warranty, that's kind of what it's about. However, the appliance has to be in working order in order for the home warranty to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if the refrigerator, if everybody knew the refrigerator was dead, they're not going to come out and for $75 buy you a new one. Okay?
I understand. Okay.
So if something happens to be not working, then it's not going to, the seller is not responsible for fixing it. But if they know it's not working, they need to disclose it. They're just on the TDS and SBQ, which we're going to go over all the disclosures next Wednesday. That is where they would disclose all those things.
Okay.
Does home warranty check the refrigerator before?
Home warranty does not come out to check the refrigerator before, no, but a lot of times they can tell how long it's been. But no, they don't come out to check. You get an inspection. Sometimes the home warranty will ask for a copy of the inspection report. Okay. Does the inspector check the refrigerator? They go open it, make sure it's cool. Yeah, they'll go through it. Okay?
Okay.
All right, very good, folks. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same channel. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Demetra.